Supplementing the Third Reich's conventional troops are the darker forces of the Nazi occult. The sinister
World War II, Cthulhu and turn-based tactics. Achtung, Cthulhu Tactics combines this oddball mix of setting and lore in a typical turn-based tactical strategy game that's based off the Achtung Cthulhu pen and paper RPG. Yes, I know, another tactics game? Really? I promise there'll be a bit more variety of games featured after this. It's just been a tactics heavy month. So, Achtung Cthulhu Tactics on paper looks and feels very much like a modern XCOM clone. This single player only tactics game features a linear campaign with the occasional side mission. No big picture strategic layer here. The missions are all handcrafted, no random layouts of enemies or even maps. What's different in Achtung Cthulhu Tactics is that each mission features more than one combat engagement, unlike XCOM. So the missions are designed in a way to feature combat areas. You move your 4 very unique elite soldiers along the map until you hit a scripted area that triggers the enemies to move into place. It's a bit of a pet peeve for me. The enemies always spot you and moves into position first, similar to how combat in the first Firaxis XCOM was handled, so you'll never get to ambush or surprise the enemy. In Achtung Cthulhu Tactics, your team of soldiers move as a group when not engaged in combat. There's no way to move them individually. This means when the enemy spots you, your soldiers will often be out of cover and out of position. You'll use the first turn to move them into proper cover. So you essentially waste the first turn most of the time due to this. You'll use action points to move your soldiers into place and fire your weapons at the enemy. Pretty standard stuff, just like any other tactics game. But there's a twist here. Achtung Cthulhu Tactics also uses momentum points. These momentum points are gained each turn when you kill enemies, score critical hits, and some momentum points are automatically generated by your soldiers. Momentum points are a shared pool of points and are used for your soldiers' special abilities. Powerful, very useful abilities that also includes the tactics game's standard by now, Overwatch. Yes, Overwatch in Achtung Cthulhu Tactics doesn't use APs but momentum points instead. Because these points are shared, you'll have to gauge the situation and use the very limited momentum points you have for that turn carefully. As you complete missions, your soldiers gain experience points and skill points which you can assign new special abilities. There are also items which you can equip such as a medkit, but be wary that you can only use them once per mission. For instance, if you've used your medkit early on in the mission, you won't be able to heal your units in later engagements in the mission. So you've got to be mindful of this. I tend to keep these until I need them for the final encounter in the mission, which tends to be the toughest combat encounter. Achtung Cthulhu Tactics makes a terrible first impression. The maps look bland and there's a lack of variety in not just the aesthetics but enemy units. The regular Nazi units you face early on are really easy to beat and the early missions get boring pretty quick. But if you stick with it, it does get a lot more interesting later on as you'll face much tougher Lovecraft inspired units. The Black Sun cultists and the Nachtwolf regiment troopers that use advanced weaponry are super challenging and will require lots of smart use of your special abilities and perhaps lots of reloads and retries. I have to say, I started having fun around mission 5, equipping my elite soldiers with useful items and positioning them to cause massive damage on the enemies. It's not an easy game past mission 5, but I feel it certainly redeemed itself. It's a shame that the game starts off rather weak. I personally think this is an issue with many strategy games. Making a great first impression is super important and perhaps that's a topic for another video. Achtung Cthulhu Tactics is a fun little game if you have the patience to get through the rather uninteresting early missions. I also feel it's not well balanced. Some weapons and equipments are vastly superior than others, and the difficulty spikes up drastically after the early missions. But since this is a single player game, balance is not such a big issue here. Although I would have liked the difficulty to ramp up more, how should I put it, gently. You can check out Achtung Cthulhu Tactics in the Humble Store link in the description below. Please do subscribe to this channel for more videos on all strategy games. Yes, I promise, not just tactics games. Thank you for watching.